6:30, I think we'll get started. We call the meeting to order. Others coming in. Okay, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could all stand for that, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with the hearing of citizens. Any citizen wishing to speak for 3 minutes, you can come up and sit next to Ms. Pickens there in the vacant chair. Please state your name, and then we'll ask you to print your name and address on the tablet. Do we have anyone who would like to speak? No? Everyone's just here to listen. Okay, great. Moving on then, the first item on our agenda is the 21-22 audit. So we'll ask Zellenkowski Axelrod to give their presentation. Sure. Do you have a PowerPoint or anything? Okay, you can kind of stand here and then.
Okay, that works.
Whatever's comfortable for you.
So hi, my name is Brian Crucial. I'm from Zellenkowski Axelrod. This is my first year coming up here. Last year was my first year on the audit. I'm a partner in our Pittsburgh office.
Yes.
So give you a there we go. So brief agenda, what we're going to go over. It looks long, I will be long. Introduction, auditor responsibilities during our audit, our approach, the audit results, and other required communications. So like I said, we completed our audit back in December. We issued the financial statements right before Christmas. So for the year ended June 30th, 2022. Here we'll go through our required communications with the board too. So like I said, I'm Brian Crucial, I'm the partner on the audit. That's Megan Crucial back there. She was the manager on the audit, and then we had several staff members with us also working on the audit. So our responsibilities. So if anyone read a copy of our engagement letter when we sent it up, we plan to perform our audit to obtain reasonable rather than absolute assurance. We assess the risk of material misstatement during our audit. We evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies used. And then we form and express an opinion about whether the financial statements have been presented materially accurate by management for the year ended. I will say that our opinion was unmodified. That's the highest level of assurance we can give you. So we believe your financial statements are free of material misstatement. John and the staff do a great job. So we didn't have any difficulties encountered during the audit. Everything was given to us when we needed it in a timely manner. Everything went smoothly. Some more of our responsibilities. So you guys are obviously receive a lot of federal funding. So that in conjunction with that, you have some more responsibilities as far as compliance with regulations, federal and local because of that. So we perform our audit. We obtain an understanding of internal control over financial reporting and then compliance with certain laws and provisions. And then we perform an audit in accordance with uniform guidance. So that's the federal statute that governs all the federal funding. For this year, for the last 2 years, really, the ESSER funding kind of dominated your federal funding. It's a big source of funding from the American Rescue Plan. I'm sure you're well aware of. We'll talk about that a little bit more on a subsequent slide. And then if we had any findings, we would report them to the board. You would have heard about them beforehand too, because we would have talked to John ahead of time. We didn't have any findings. Our audit approach, like I said, we conducted our audit consistent with the plan, scope, and timing we previously communicated. The engagement team and our firm have all complied with the relevant ethical standards to perform the audit. So if you saw the letter for managed communication and governance, this is new this year. We never had to spell this out before, but we have to identify the significant risks that we identified during our audit. So at the bottom there, you see we identify improper revenue recognition due to fraud and management override of controls as significant risk during the audit. That's every audit ever. That's not just Erie City School District. Every audit, the auditing standards require you to identify those two significant risks during the audit, because they are significant risks that you have to mitigate, because there could be improper revenue recognition due to fraud, and there could be management override of internal controls. That's just that's uniform from every school district, every borough, to a county, to US Steel. That's everywhere. Those two risks are always going to be there. So if you saw the letter, don't fret. That doesn't mean we thought the audit was any riskier this year. Those were always documented. We also audited all the key audit areas. I mean, really, and I'll get to it here. The audit results. So there's no new accounting standards this year. If anyone read the financial statements, our audit opinions look a little bit different. There was a new audit standard that basically clarified our opinions. So there's some bullet points in the opinion. It kind of spells out what we do as auditors a little bit more than it used to. It used to be a little bit more vague. It's more clear now. The opinions still mean the same. It's still an unmodified opinion. It still has all the same information in it. It just kind of details management's responsibilities versus auditors' responsibilities a little bit more. As far as accounting standards go, there was a big accounting standard that was adopted during the year ended June 30, 2022. It was GASB 87 for leases. We determined it didn't actually have a significant impact on the school district. So we evaluated the bus contract just to see if it fit under GASB 87. It didn't actually fit the criteria. So that was more of a service contract. So we didn't have to do anything in regards to that. So that was the big adoption of an accounting standard this year. It didn't really actually have any big impact. So some significant accounting estimates. Your biggest significant accounting estimates are the pension and OPEB liabilities and your estimated useful life of fixed assets. We'll get into the pension and OPEB a little bit. I think it's on the next slide. Yeah. So your most sensitive disclosures. You see the first two, the pension disclosures and the OPEB disclosures. So those are basically an actuarially determined liability for what we think the school district will have to pay in future costs for retiree health insurance and just retiree pensions. As everyone in this room is, I'm sure, aware, the PSERS contribution rate is around 35% now. So of every dollar you spend, you have to spend on salaries, you have to spend an additional 35 cents on just keeping the pension fully funded. At least your portion of it fully funded. It's not fully funded at the state level, but you're doing your part to keep it fully funded. So that's all disclosed in note 7 there. You can see the other post-employment benefits. That's your health insurance that takes them from retirement through Social Security age. That's not nearly as big of a liability as the PSERS amount, but still a significant liability to the district. And then the other sensitive financial statement disclosures that are just long-term liabilities. I said note 5 and note 9. You do have an interest rate swap, which is a little unique for a government, but it's not a particularly risky swap option or anything. So it is disclosed there in note 9. Any significant unusual transactions we would report, we didn't have any of those to report. Uncorrected and corrected misstatements. We're required to put this in there. We didn't have any uncorrected or corrected misstatements. Like I said, John and the staff do a great job. So what we got was in good shape when we got it. So we didn't have to make any audit adjustments. If we did, we would have talked earlier about an internal control finding. Because if you do have to make material audit adjustments, then it becomes an internal control issue. Like I said, internal control matters. We tested internal controls. We walked through expenses, disbursements, receipts. We evaluate all those cycles. We didn't have any issues with them. We didn't have any material weaknesses, any significant deficiencies noted in those cycles. That means everybody's doing their job as it's lined out in your policies and procedures. Just some other things. No difficulties dealing with management, no non-compliance, no known or suspected fraud during the audit. So a little bit just to touch on some of the numbers. So your operating results, and we'll just go through general fund here quick. Your fund balance increase in 2022, 16.78 million. The increase in 2021, 7.4 million. So your ESSER funding from the American Rescue Plan plays a large role in that. So you received approximately 13 million increase in federal revenues from 2021 to 2022. That's predominantly ESSER, but you also had some other revenue increases. The basic ed subsidy went up 8% from 21 to 22. Your local revenues are up. You did increase taxes about 3%. So your real estate taxes were up and real estate transfer taxes were higher than usual. I mean, everybody was probably aware of the market last year of real estate. So there's a lot of home sales. So you did receive a little bit more in transfer tax too. Expenditures up only about 16 million. So that coincides with the ESSER spending. So your expenditures were up, your revenues were up more. So and the good part is the sustainable, not the recurring revenues were up more. So it wasn't just like you inflated your fund balance by using the ESSER money. So it was a more sustainable increase to fund balance. That bottom line though, your unassigned fund balance, 24.9 million, that's about 11.2% of general fund expenditures. Depends on who you listen to, PASBO, GFOA, GASB, they all have different benchmarks, but it's usually between 8 and 15% of unassigned fund balance you want to have available for your general fund budget. So you're right in the middle of that. So that's good too. Your cafeteria fund, I just put it on there. Your net position's up to 5.2 million. Everybody's been qualifying for free lunches across the board. So every school district, every board meeting I've been to the last 2 years, your cafeteria fund is really good because everybody qualifies for free lunches. So the federal subsidies are a lot higher for the cafeteria fund. So it's good. And you have that in the future. So if the subsidies go back to what they were before the pandemic, you won't have an issue. The other funds, not a ton of variation. The capital funding, capital projects fund spending was up. So the fund balance in there went down a little bit. So it shows like a $14.1 million loss. Part of that's spending on projects. Part of that's too, you have some investments in that fund. So you didn't earn as much investment income in 2022 as prior years. Obviously, if anyone has looked at their 401k or anything lately. But that's all I have. I tried to go through that kind of quick. Did I miss anything? Is there any questions on anything?
Thank you very much for that. Any questions?
Do you have, for comparison, do you have like common size statements for school districts or, I mean, do we seem to be normal in our allocation of assets and such?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of a unique school district in that you're one of the larger city school districts, but not as large as a Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. So you kind of, I mean, I can definitely do some benchmarking for you, find some budgets similar to yours, because we audit a couple in Allegheny County, we audit Mill Creek Township. They're all, I mean, they're not as big of a budget as yours, but they're similar.
Mill Creek would be probably the best one, wouldn't it? Since it's the same
Yeah,
county.
same area, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can put together some benchmarking for you, and I can send it to John if he wants to, or if you want to have me back up or something to go over. But yeah, that's something we could do just to compare it.
It'd be helpful if we were compared to Mill Creek, just as I think everybody knows where Mill Creek is, and these statements, nobody can read them. I passed the CPA exam in one pass. I can't read these things.
Well, that's why that's
I
job
think
security.
we find it out.
Standards.
I think the politicians came up with the rules because you can't read them. So, but
Yeah.
a comparison like that would be helpful, I think, to all of us.
Yeah, that's something I can put together. I'll get with John and Brian. Get something together for you guys.
Other questions? On that note about Mill Creek though, are the statements publicly available? I mean, do we post these on our website or we do? So I would imagine they do too, right?
Yeah.
PDE actually every year posts the annual financial results for every school district. So there's a lot of comparative data out on PDE's website that we actually utilize in our budgeting process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, any school district that qualifies for a single audit has federal, even if they don't post it on their website, you can go to a federal audit clearinghouse and find their financial statements.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on then to item number 3 on our agenda, which is the capital projects fund transfer. Brian?
So just to piggyback on what the auditors presented, our combined general fund balance, unreserved and reserved, is right now $41.2 million. And the surplus that we received this year, 16.8 million. In the past, what we've been doing with that is transferring into the capital projects fund to fund phase 2 of our facilities plan. If you recall, when PFM was here last, we looked at potentially having about $70 million set aside over the next 5 years to fund phase 2 so that we can push off any bond issue, maybe 2 to 3 more years. So we have on the agenda for next week a recommendation to make that transfer of close to $16.8 million from the general fund to the capital projects fund.
Any questions for Brian on that? What a wonderful position to be in, all I have to say. Okay, no questions? Okay. We will move on then to the facilities plan. We have our architects here, I believe, to give us a presentation.
Yes.
Great. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having us. I'm John Finn with HHFDR. It's great to see all of you again. We have a lot of information to go over today, a lot of information that we are very excited to share with you. And all our friends from the Edison School are coming in here too, so this is great.
Yeah, do you guys all want to come? I mean, there's seats back here too. Yeah, come sit.
We don't fight.
Thank you.
Neither do I.
It's hard to get around us all, but. I do here.
So I'm also here tonight with Bob Engelbaugh with HHSDR and Jim Vizzini with CGL Engineering. We've kind of been up here the entire time with all of the projects going on. So just want to take some time tonight to go over quite a bit of information. But in general, I have a handout, given to all of you. So feel free if you want to flip along with me there, or we're going to present everything up there. So I'll walk and talk through all of these items with you here tonight. Just in general, the current projects in construction, I felt it was adamant for us to kind of touch base on those real quick. There's a lot happening across many schools in the district, in particular Erie High School, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 of Erie High is actually concluding. We're looking to wrap that up. We're going to tie up some loose ends and finishing out some work. Unfortunately, we got hit with some cold weather, so we are transferring some work to the next phase. But we've done that via change order and so forth and so on. And the contractors have been great to work with, as well as the administration. I would extend a big thank you to the Erie School District administration at the high school and at all levels, because they've been extremely accommodating for the process of the construction at all the buildings. So we're working through that. Phase 2 has been off and running as well. So we're currently working in the south wing of the high school. And if you get a chance to go over and see it, it is in shambles, needless to say, but we're going to make it look better, I promise you. Wilson phase 2, Collegiate Academy phase 2 are also running very strong right now. Both of those projects are moving along very well. We've kind of hit some bumps in the road. We've been able to work with Neil, the administration, the contractors, get those things taken care of and keep going. A lot of projects though, like boiler upgrades and generators and fire alarm upgrade, all of those have kind of been closed out or are in process of being closed out. So we're looking to transition away from those jobs. Your warranties will be starting, so forth and so on. And then the Jefferson Elementary, the roofing is underway, it's ongoing, and some back and forth with the masonry that's working there now too. But there's a lot of work that's occurring, and with cold temperatures, we've kind of had to solve, and we're waiting for things to warm up a little bit. So the rest of the stuff here this evening, since we have
Can I
it
just
here.
stop you there quickly? Does anybody have any questions about any of those items before we go on? Can you remind me when phase 2 at Erie High will be done? We had that question last week and I just couldn't remember. I'm sorry.
2025,
2025, basically. Yeah.
I believe before the start of the 2025 school year.
Great. Okay.
Like that December right there, yes. We were able to save some money on the boilers because some of them could be converted from steam
Steam to
to
hot
hot
water.
water.
Yes, yes. So that we did that during the bid process. In lieu of converting them from steam to hot water, we just kept the converters in, which was money that we spent. So we're keeping the steam online, but we're able to save the money and do in lieu of doing that conversion, we're able to continue that. So, Jim, do you want to add anything quickly to that? Yes.
Something that might, a couple of the schools, we hope to be able to get rid of steam in its entirety. But if we were able to keep it as a closed loop system, just between the boilers and the heat exchange and back, it's such a small system. It was deemed that it would be more advantageous to make use of the money the district already spent on the main converters that actually serve the heating needs and for the whole entire school.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
You mentioned like the bumps on the road. Other than the weather, what was the bumps on the road?
Just unforeseen conditions, mostly. Never know what you're going to see when you tear down a wall or when you open up a floor. Sometimes there's a raised floor, and when you take it out, there's something that's been very cryptic and hidden in there for years, and those are the little things. There's not been anything major, I will say. Most of it's just been unforeseen conditions that we're not able to predict or forecast, but things that have been able to be dealt with rather rapidly and quickly and easily. So,
Any other questions about those items? No? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to.
no, thank
check
you.
in.
And by all means, if there are any questions at all, just stop me. Just tell me, blurt it out. We'll go ahead and take care of those as we go. So since we have your ear tonight, we're going to talk about the 3 projects in general. So these are the ones that are going to be up next, so to speak. Now, very briefly, and this is kind of a new thing, we are going to talk about some paving work that's going to start this summer. And we're looking at a change order. We are going to bid these projects for the Joanna Connell bus loop, the service center, and the wall outside the district admin office has worsened. And so we're going to go ahead and rope this in right now and take care of some paving here as well. So just to give you a general idea of the time frame and what we're doing, I just want to go over those couple items with you real quick. I'd like to touch base real quick on Fred Bolitnikoff Field. We're very, very close to being ready to go out to bid on that. We are planning to speak with the athletic committee here next week. I'm very excited about that aspect too, for that whole development. And just want to give you the scope review of what that is, the timeline review, and then just go over the estimate of where we stand currently. And then last but not least, the new Edison Elementary School, which has been fantastic. And we are really excited to show you that. I want to go through all of those bits and pieces with you here tonight. So very quickly, Joanna Connell, like I said, the existing pavement in certain locations, it's not the whole site, but in certain locations at all 3 of these needs to be addressed. There's failing areas, particularly the bus loop of Joanna Connell, the big parking lot at the service center, and then obviously outside here in the district admin offices. While we have pavers mobilized, we're going to go ahead and get this taken care of. But in general, we're going to go ahead and address these problems in this manner here. So just to give you an idea, this is Joanna Connell. This is an aerial view. The bus loop in general, and I'm trying not to hit you in the eye here, Angela, I'm sorry. Sorry. The bus loop is literally just the front here. So along the front, the aerial does not do it justice. There are a lot of potholes. It's very torn along the front there. So we're going to be taking the pavement out, replacing that with a new pavement section, and grinding down the parking area for the vehicular parking here in the front, and just marrying those 2 together. So we'll have a new pavement section across there.
Will that be concrete or asphalt?
That would be asphalt. So all of this will be asphalt for the most part. So
Is that, I mean, we have the same problem in Erie High where that road is very rutted, where I guess that's a city street, right? That's ours.
that is your street, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's slated to be repaved next summer. So we will be
Those
addressing
heavy buses, what kind of life do you get out of asphalt?
that particular asphalt is going to be heavy duty asphalt. So it's a thicker section. We'll be doing the same thing here. So it's a little bit longer of a life span to give you more quality, and then with proper maintenance and everything in the last several amount of time.
John,
Yes, sir.
if you look at that the long way, the north half of that is by far worse than the southern half. And I've hounded Neil about it before he started hearing me, but if we just mill that and put down more asphalt without addressing the drainage, and we're afraid we're gonna end up in the same situation soon. Can we be assured that that'll be part of the project that you'll take? a
Yes,
look at?
drainage is a part of this too. I should have mentioned that. So we are looking at the drainage across that. So there's not a whole lot there to work with, but we're going to do what we can to improve the drainage overall, and get the right flow going.
It's
so
so
there's-
starkly different on the one, on that other half.
Mhm. Yeah, so it is a different situation overall when we've been surveying it and taking a look at it. So we're still looking at that right now with our development and our design, but drainage is in the scope to take care of that and address it accordingly as we go.
Was it, I believe when I was there, wasn't it concrete? First time it was paved or built? Why,
Saying.
I'm assuming it
drawings-
was.
I
When it
don't
was
know if it was
built,
concrete or not.
the driveway was concrete, and why aren't we going back to that?
Well, to go back to it would be an extremely expensive procedure to go back to a concrete paving as opposed to an asphalt paving. And it's a little bit more user friendly to go forward with the asphalt at this point. So we will be taking out the asphalt, addressing the stone base underneath to give you a more suitable structure. And then putting the new asphalt down. So
And I imagine you went into the back parking lot and looked, and that's fine.
that is
Doesn't
decent at
need
this
work
point.
or anything?
At this point, no, we will probably have some unit costs in our contract to handle if we do encounter anything in the field that we can touch up, take care of. But is for most part, that can be done at a later date.
And it's the back asphalt too?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, then I stand corrected then.
So the service center is interesting. So the back parking lot there is, it's defined with a lot of potholes, and it's definitely wreaking havoc on the buses, I would say. So the goal here is to completely repave this hatched area. Okay, and provide, readdress the drainage, get the slopes going the correct way. And restructure the parking lot. There's no definition to it right now, so it's kind of a very catastrophic area to park in and to navigate. So we want to make sure that we address that as we move forward here. And then, okay, so the district administration offices, I don't know how far the paving is going to go here yet. I apologize. We're still in design on this. The paving here, there's great parts of this paving, there are not so great parts of this paving. So we have to kind of analyze how we're going to do this. We don't want to just rip it all out. It wouldn't be cost effective. But in general, the big component here is this dash green line. Now, the dash green line is actually a proposed location of the wall. Okay, so we're going to be looking at that with the administration, with Neil, and looking at the traffic flow pattern around the building to try and prevent, to get away from the houses that wall is directly against right now, and also repair the wall completely so that it is taken care of for the future. And with that will come some paving and some restructuring the parking lot, seal coating, striping, making sure that we're addressing all of that while we have pavers mobilized here.
Want to take a look at what happened. We think that maybe a snow plow hit the retention wall on the side, and it's completely crumbled in one section. So there's nothing between the neighbor's yard and our parking lot. It's just pavement and then dirt. So we have that blocked off right now. We're concerned about driving back there and having it collapse into the neighbor's yard. So we really do need to address that right now. So
John, I'm just curious, regarding this lot to the east. I'm just curious, do we own that?
yes.
I know we
Yes,
use
you
it.
do.
Right.
We own to the corner. We own the alleyway between that lot and then that other lot. And then the one on the corner, we own that as well.
All the way.
Yeah, the one, we leased the corner lot to Hallman, that's why the trucks are there.
Just curious.
No, and to answer your question, we haven't discussed the limits of paving yet here. So that is something that we want to discuss with you and understand. We want to look at an expansion there and see what's going on. So that's still, it's very early in the development of this. So I apologize for not having much information on it, but
That's fine.
I just wanted to give you a chance to update
I
that.
was just curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we have people that come to meetings here, don't teachers park over there beyond where the employees are parked, so it'd be good then. We could take that,
We'll probably get an alternate for it. And
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it, do it.
We're gonna do the cat house.
So, yeah, that is something, an alternate would be a great way to address that for sure. So. But in general, just here we are tonight, February, just giving you a scope review. We're going to be looking to complete bid documents at the end of March. That is very, very quickly approaching. So we're working diligently right now to get those done. Then we'll be looking to advertise in April and receive bids at the end of April, so we can get award in May and hopefully start construction in June. Now, there's a lot of factors still that have to go into play into this timeline. So this could vary ultimately, but it's something that we're trying to accelerate as quickly as possible. So any questions just about the paving in general before we move on? Okay. So next, we're gonna go ahead and touch base on the Fred Biletnikoff Stadium. So currently, so we've been working on this for quite a while. Actually, right now, we've already submitted our NPDES permit to the state or to the DEP, and we're also working with the city and have submitted our drawings for the stormwater management. So we've already done this development, but now we're just kind of working out the nuts and bolts of everything that's left and looking to go out to bid here at the end of February. Now, there are some aspects of this that we're still coordinating with the athletic committee as far as priorities and alternates and things of that nature, which we're going to be touching base on next week. But just in general, just the overall scope, I'm going to go ahead and walk through this plan on the next page. So here, behind the school, behind the high school, we have the existing Biletnikoff field, and the existing is just a grass field and a non-existent track, I'll say. We do have the existing sign out at the corner of the lot here, okay? And that will remain intact and complete. And we do have an existing building here that does have some function, but it is not utilized at this point. So the plan here, very, very simply, is we are going to base bid an artificial turf field, football field and soccer, okay? And do a regulation synthetic rubber track around the field, okay? Now the D zones, the end of the field, the D zones will be paved and have that synthetic surface as well. And then we will have our jumping events here for high jump and pole vault at the end of the fields. Because we have artificial turf, we cannot do throwing events within the field proper, which was the original idea long ago. So instead, we have relocated the throwing events to basically the elbow here of the south wing of the high school, okay? That would be our javelin, our discus, and our shot put, okay? And this is being coordinated and worked with our Thomas Construction, the phase 2 contractors, where there's a lot of work that's overlapping with these two. So there's a lot of give and take for both of these projects since they are going to overlap. And then in general, so moving on to this next plan, the last aspect of the new project will be a new concession restroom building here. Excuse me. So to get into some of these details here, you can kind of see this would be the parking lot over here towards the high school in this realm. We have our new concession and restroom building here in this corner, which I'll show you a detail of that so you can actually see the plan. We have our new track going around the exterior of the football and soccer field. This is base bid artificial turf. We are going to do an alternate bid also for natural sod. So if we don't like where prices are coming in, we can take that out and go to a natural sod. You will be able to go to a turf later on in the future if you choose to. That's something that could kind of come and go.
John,
Yes, sir.
I'm understanding you that the track and the football field would be separate alternate bids, or are they one and one?
It will be one bid to create that, the turf aspect. So the field's going to be there. So the track will be there. It's either going to be sod or it's going to be turf.
Hypothetically, the track could be artificial and the field could be sod?
Yes.
Yes, yes. We do have new bleachers going in and press box with a 740 seat capacity and an 8 foot by 36 foot press box. That's a 3 compartment press box there. That'll have power, heat, and that's pretty much about it there. But that is coming as one package as well. You can see here the color that's being proposed. Obviously, we're going to utilize some of the school colors. I will apologize. The Erie and the Royals should be yellow. But they will be the school color yellow, and then the athletic department E here in the middle of the field. And then we'll utilize a purple border around the field itself, and then we'll go with a gray or a black synthetic material around the track. Okay. Then our long jump will still stay in this location over here, adjacent to the bleachers, and leading into our concession building over in this location, which we'll take a look at here next. So the concession building, okay, this is the building proper, and you can kind of see the outline right here. Okay, there's a lot of dimensions here and everything. I apologize. But in general, the field is in this area over here. So the concessions will face the field. Okay, we'll have a couple of queues of lines and roll up screens here in the front. So you can approach, have a consent, purchase something from concessions and then return back to the stands or back to the field. We will have a family restroom here, and then a little janitorial mechanical space, as well as our women's restroom and our men's restrooms that will kind of envelope the rest of this. And the fixture count is sized for the 740 in assembly space in this manner. Okay, so overall, the function of the actual concession stand is going to be very similar to what we do at Collegiate Academy. So there's not a whole lot, I mean, there's grab and go type things, there's no fryers, there's no ovens, there's no cooking that's going to occur at that location.
I have one question. on
Yes.
this, that somebody
Yeah.
told me to ask, which I think is a good one. Would that track be of regulation size?
Yes,
And what is it, a quarter-mile track or?
I think that is a quarter mile.
Yeah.
Yes. 6 months.
Okay.
Yes.
And John, if I could just interrupt you for a second, I think Dale is somewhere. We did ask a lot of questions that the athletic director be involved in this conversation when we met with John at the athletic commission level, really with the intent that this could be used to host, and Dale, do you want to speak to that, to host invitationals and events, all of that could happen here, is that correct?
Yeah, we could with the 6-lane track, we could,
And with the field events and everything as we have them.
as we have them on there, yes.
Can we do that at the stadium currently or?
No.
Thanks.
Another thing to note, we do have lighting for this, so field lighting will be present. We've done the calculations so that we're not flooding the street down here on 32nd. We're trying to stay away and aim all of that lighting towards the center of the field as well. So that will be included in this package as we move forward into bidding. So the concession building overall, go ahead.
If you have, I appreciate what you just said for the sake of the neighbors who used to object to some of those things years ago. But if you have a press box on the other side with speakers facing 32nd Street, is there an alternative way of doing that if we end up with press box there? And I mean, to not have the speakers blasting towards the houses.
So I think the scoreboard is going to be the only speaker location. And the scoreboard, I believe, is located in this bottom left-hand corner. Can't see it, actually. There, yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, so we would angle the speakers away from the neighbors, so to speak, as much as possible, and aim the scoreboard towards the stands. Okay, so that's where the speakers are going to occur, not necessarily from the press box proper.
All right, I just wanted to be sensitive.
Sure.
Aimed at the neighbor, not aimed at the neighbor.
So the concession building, just to kind of wrap that up, very basic construction, split face block, painted concrete block, and just a standing seam metal roof. The purpose of this building is not to be used year round, so we would be able to close it down, winterize it, and lock it up during the unfortunate months of snow and wind, and ice, and so forth and so on. So we're going to be able to kind of tuck that away. But just a very simple construction, single white masonry, and very
It's a
simple
quality
materials.
roof, right? The
Yeah,
standing
standing
seam
seam metal
is
roof.
a high quality.
Yes, yes.
There'll be an alternate for shingles.
Yep.
As a way to have a relief valve on the price also.
So base bid would be the standing seam, and if it comes in a little high, we don't like it, we can always step back to shingles. Because again, that's another idea that if you wanted to come back and re-roof this in 10, 15 years after the shingles are approaching the end of their life at that point, or 25 or wherever you would go with that quality, you could put a standing seam on at that point. So current time frame for this, we're looking to get out to bid here at the end of this month. We still have some things to figure out. We still need to talk about the alternate bid structure and things like that. There's a lot of factors that have changed. A lot of things that have come and gone from this project as well. So we're going to be looking to bid that in the month of March, award bids in April, with the intent of a groundbreaking ceremony in May and completion of construction there in November. So now, bad part about working outside, unfortunately, is the weather. So we're hoping for a great summer to be able to do so. But given the fact that the facility is not utilized currently, gives us a little bit more leeway back and forth to be able to work in the time frame that we need to. So project budgets, kind of fresh off the press, we've been looking at some current jobs that have been here recently. General heating, plumbing, electrical construction right now Construction total out the door would be about $5.1 million. Now, what I would say to that is there's going to be some soft costs on top of that, as there usually is. We'll be looking at those a little bit further as we whittle down this price here. And then also, we are going to be looking at various alternate bids to be able to control that as you see fit as the board. So any questions with Blitnikoff Field before we would move forward?
Does the existing Erie High renovation plan include repaving back there? It's pretty rough now.
Yeah, it's scheduled for this summer,
Good.
which is why this timeline is the way it is, to try to get that whole back area buttoned up this year.
I noticed last night going to the basketball game, you did have up more lighting and that helped too.
And there's a lot of give and take with that paving project. I think we're actually going to end up having to take some from that contract to put it in this contract and vice versa, so that we can marry all of this together. So, we don't have any clashes with contractors and so forth. So
I happen to like the wide openness of the absence of the fence there now. But if we end up, especially with the field being turf, I think we have to be
fencing is
protective
included.
of it. Because like cars, bicycles, dogs, golf shoes, I mean, Harbor Creek has a very nice facility and it's fenced. And I wish there was a way to not have such a fence that's still protected. And Fairview, I think, years ago, I haven't been out there in a while, but they have a fence, and in both cases, I think the gate's always unlocked, but you have to go through the gate to get on it. I just want us to be, if we go full throttle on it, I think we owe it to the community to protect it as best we can.
Yes. So fencing is included in the perimeter. That's something that is planned as a part of this, because that's something we would recommend that to keep the turf safe, to keep everything in there safe.
Do you have options considered for fence, like other than just one big tall fence? Is there like, I think I heard Brian say that there were other options, but how about like a wall of a mound of dirt 4 feet high or something that, or something?
Given how close we are to the street with the edge of the property right there, to get a mound of dirt, you can kind of see right along this. We are very, very close
I see it.
to the street. So
I just was trying to suggest something other than just, and maybe the answer is just one tall fence. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just so we do something.
Rose, did you have?
My concern is the neighbors are well aware of this. They've been giving
Not
their
yet.
input.
So let me just, gut check on the timeline here. We've been waiting for the architects to come up. And when I say we, of course, the Athletic
Mhm.
Facilities Commission does meet. Doug White is here. Doug sits on that commission with us. We've been kind of waiting for these plans from the architects and then wanted the board to see them. And our hope now, once if the board is feeling comfortable with things, we would like to have actually a meeting over at Erie High, invite the neighbors to come see the plans and then talk about any concerns. We don't think it's necessary to have a whole public meeting. I mean, anyone would be welcome, but to specifically invite the neighbors so that we can talk about some of the things John's mentioned, noise and lights and things like that. So that is our plan.
So this means we'll have like football games, like we'll actually have a campus, like Fairview, McDowell. We won't have to utilize collegiate anymore.
So maybe Dale can speak to use again. Sorry, Dale.
That's okay.
So use, Dale, what are you seeing as use for this versus veterans?
Well, veterans doesn't have a track, so this would definitely fulfill that for our middle school and our high school athletes that we don't have that currently, where we could host track meets and let them even practice on a track. For football and soccer, they were in our meeting and they are both wanting to use this space. Right now, we kind of oversaturate Veterans Stadium. So the preliminary idea would be to maybe host the JV and freshman games, but have our Veterans Stadium be our varsity game, so we can highlight that with the amount of stands that we have. And then for soccer, we could do either or, veterans or Blitnikoff. So we just would have another space, because right now at veterans, that's our only turf option. If the board goes with turf, for them to practice or play for soccer, because they typically play on turf.
Lori, does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
I'm not gonna, I think it's great. I do love all this. And y'all know how I feel like, I still feel like, I think it's great. I know we probably don't have another option. But, you know, we just brought up Harbor Creek and everywhere else where they can have all the things. And I know it's probably not seen to anyone else as a shortchange or anything like that, and that we're not really shortchanging our kids. But I wish we could do, and I don't know what that even looks like, you know, financially, all the things. This is just me sharing my own heart and thoughts, that I wish we could do it to the. I don't know, I just think I just digress. But either way, I think it's great and all of that. I wish we could have like a full-fledged campus where our varsity and everyone else could do all the things. Like all the other surrounding schools, but I think it's great though.
Thank you. Other questions on Paletnikoff?
Just that I would say we'd be gaining a lot just to have Paletnikoff as a track facility and a soccer facility. And our veteran stadium is one of the premier high school football venues in the state. Not further, we ought not abandon that. I don't think, with all that we have in there and all that its capacity to hold crowds when the crowds do come there. So I see this Paletnikoff as more of a track and soccer use facility. Certainly football can be played there by maybe JVs and middle school, but for the big games, I think we should not try to compete with ourselves at the stadium. Just my opinion.
Thanks, John. Yes, I'm.
Now, would that track there, could that be adopted for Special Olympic events?
Yeah, I don't, yeah, there's, yeah. That, I said that the idea would be as all inclusive as possible with as many events. High school, JV, Special Olympics, all, so we try to capture everything.
Where are we holding our track events now?
We don't, so when we're scheduled to host an event, depending on the location and who we're going against, we have to host it at their location and then pay for the officials where we don't get any of the gate or the concessions or anything like that. We're still considered the host, but we're not hosting.
We've never had a track or?
I don't think we've had a track since I ran track many years ago.
Dale and I
Even
both
back
ran
in
track in the
Bob.
early 90s. I would think the last time.
Last time it was on Academy, where you had to do that.
And where was the track?
At Veteran Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't regulation, so you
I
had
see.
to run a little extra.
Wow.
So I also want to say, so we'll go back to the commission, I think next week and present the plans. There also is an opportunity for some fundraising on this. I want to assure the board that I believe the commission intends to work with the Foundation for Erie Public Schools to think about how some sponsorship dollars could be brought in to offset and some different things. So wanted to make sure everybody's good with it right now, as it's coming in, and then we'll come back to you, I think, as things develop, and hopefully also have a fundraising plan in place. Okay. All right, let's move on.
So next is the New Edison Elementary School. So this is what we were very excited about. In general, at this point, everyone's kind of seen a little bit of this, been hinted at it. Thank you, Neil, for kind of giving the update last month. And also kind of answering any questions in our stead here. Right now, we've kind of gone from the study into schematic design and then now into design development. Currently, we're looking to conclude design development this month and then transition into construction documents. That will be the next step here. Currently, we've had a chance to work with the administration at Edison. Thank you to all of you for the great feedback, for the great information that we've gotten, and the cooperation that we've got out of them just to lay this building out, to really understand the ins and outs of what their needs are. And that's kind of what we want to dive into here this evening, is just to give you guys an understanding of where you're going to be with the new building and the decisions that have been made as to why things are the way they are at this point. So in general, as we've seen before in the past, we're going to have a new building being built on the site adjacent to the existing building. Okay. Now, just to talk about constructability real quick for how this is going to come together. Once we get under construction, bids are awarded, award contracts, get everything mobilized. We're going to erect a fence between the existing and the new, and keep our contractors over to the side, the 7th Street side over here, so that we can build this new building while school stays in session at the existing. Okay. Now you can kind of see the existing building does overlap on some of our site. So there's going to be a flip. Once the building's done, we move into it and we flip the contractors over to the other side to demolish the existing building and also finish out our site work at this point. This aspect, this understanding is just now starting to come into our view. And so there's a lot of work, a lot of coordination and discussion that has to occur in order to look at how that's actually, that delicate ballet is going to happen, okay? But we'll work through it. We'll make sure that it gets taken care of, talk to the administration about it so they're aware of it before we even get started. In general, just to talk about the overall traffic flow and what this site is going to be. Yes.
So the students won't have access to the playground area while the construction is going on, is that correct?
That is correct. Unfortunately, they will not be able to access the playground areas during that point in time. It's because of the scale of the building and because of excavations and safety and things of that nature that we would be taking that away for the time being.
Okay.
So with the existing building online, we'll go ahead and construct our new building. And then the traffic flow, the new traffic flow that we've come up with to address both parent and bus loop is what we want to try and discuss here this evening. The building itself, this is our main entrance. You can kind of see it here. Okay, this will be the new main entrance of the building. And then this is our gymnasium entrance. Okay, and this will make more sense when we do look at the plan again together. But the idea is to corral the students at the end of the day in the gymnasium to have one area where they dismiss from, where they could come out and go into the parent loop or come out to the bus loop and then disembark from there. Okay, parents would approach on 7th in along this parent loop here at the curb, pick up their student and then exit off of 7th. The reason why it's coming back to this location is because of the severe congestion that will occur here at East Lake. So we had a chance to see dismissal there once, and that was all I needed. God bless all these teachers out there who are fighting a very, very difficult battle. But the buses, not a whole lot of buses there, just a few that we need to serve. So just a small loop coming in off of 7th and exiting back out onto Bacon. But with the goal of staying away from East Lake as much as possible so that we can have time to corral, have time to get those buses away from the site, but then safely onto the public streets again.
Now, I have a question. Like when the buses go out that area, maybe you girls can answer me. Okay, they're gonna come down that road, but then you're gonna have parents that want to get into that loop, correct? So you're gonna tie up traffic on West Lake or East Lake Road. And how are the buses gonna be getting out? Because sometimes parents aren't nice.
Buses
The
come,
buses come out on Bacon, I
they
think.
come out on Bacon, yes.
They come out on Bacon, but they're going down to East Lake Road, correct? So then you have people
So
coming from East Lake Road into Bacon to get into that loop.
Yep, we just have two buses, Rose, and so they might be, it might be a very narrow margin of when people would be turning south on Bacon to get into the bus loop. It would just be for two buses. The vans, the hope is, and you can see, I don't know why, I don't have to answer this question, but you can see the bus loop kind of deposits back onto Bacon Street such that if it's a van, they can go south on Bacon to either then up to 10th Street, up to 12th Street to get to their next location. So it would really only be the buses that have that quick turn that have to go almost right on north on Bacon Street. So
Okay.
just for those two, right now, two buses, school bus and YMCA bus.
Okay,
And Sean, I believe the design here is enough so that that big car loop
Yeah,
can hold 50 cars.
at least, yeah. So the previous drawing, I took out most of the cars. We lined this with as many cars as possible, basically as many cars as they told us they had coming, just to make sure that we could get them on there. You know, so there is a point in time where, you know, if we were to congest this thing fully, you could corral cars from the front of this building all the way back here. And you could get up around 40 to 50 cars in that lane. So it would be the idea is to get as many people off of Bacon. So to allow that travel to go through to East Lake, so that if there is someone turning in there, it would be a very brief margin of time that it would have to.
okay, now I think Jay brought it up at the last meeting. the merging of the two
Yes.
right there. How are you gonna handle that?
Well, so in talking with the administration, give me a thought, speaking on turn here, that would have to be monitored by one of the teachers at that point. So to make sure that there is no crashing that's
Mhm.
occurring, crashing is obviously not the right way to say it, but we would have parents coming off of 7th and then some parents coming in from the back of the building here to allow for, everyone just kind of coming to that point in general. So it would be a monitored situation.
So you guys are all okay with that monitoring that?
To do it now, it's so much safer than. what-
Yeah.
Here's our monitor. Just to be not, like, right now, we're kind of doing, like, trying to manage the road, which we have no control over. So to be not in the road and just have to worry about one-way traffic. And that seems a lot easier and safer than dealing with Beacon Street.
Okay.
So the other aspects here with that road that's coming around the back, we did not. You'll notice our play areas here adjacent to the building. With this road coming around the back, the idea is that we did not want any traffic, stopping in, we wanted to kind of keep that going past the play area in general. So we've created another parking area here to kind of, if you are going to be a teacher or if you're a parent or whatever, if there's overflow parking back here that you can get into, but we're trying to keep as much separation from play area to vehicular traffic as possible. Play areas will be fenced in completely, all the way around them. So we'll be able to kind of corral that situation. We're going to be separating play areas by grade levels. So we do have kindergarten and then 2 additional play areas to use as they see fit for those areas.
Oh, I thought that was a kind play area, like that's where we're nice to each other. No. Got it. That's good. Got it. So just so I'm clear, because I had that question too. So the parking off of East Lake Road there is probably staff parking, I guess, because the staff could enter from the rear of the building with an access, whereas visitors could park off of 7th. Okay.
Yeah, visitor parking would be more prevalent out front in general, but for any, I would say, events, because there are capabilities of this school if you choose to use them, for gymnasium and things like that for after hours, or they could serve the community over and above the actual educational purposes. Additional parking may be warranted, and so that's what that is going to serve over and above that. But the idea is, right now within our development, we are in zoning review with the city. We're going to be talking through this here very soon with them and going into land development. So getting the number of parking spaces right is where we're going to be headed next. So making sure that the appropriate amount is provided for both the school and the city zoning is going to be our next focus here. So in general, you can see kind of the rest of the building here. The one thing I will kind of point out here is this additional parking area off of the bus loop. That is intended really to kind of serve the food pantry, the community pantry that's over at that corner. And we'll touch base on what that is here as we move into the floor plans next. Yes,
I assume that when the new building is built and the existing building is to be demolished, that'll probably happen in the summer. Because it would be in the way of that new driveway. And if we had a new building and no new driveway, we'd have a different situation for a while anyway.
Yes. So that constructability aspect of this is still being reviewed right now. There may not even, when we turn over this building, we may not be able to give all of those play areas over right away. Because we may need to have staging and parking and things like that during the demolition process that has to take place. That unfolding of that entire site is going to have to be analyzed as we move into the next phase of this.
That's my question, because I'm just concerned, and maybe you guys are too. That the kids are not gonna be able to go outside during this construction period. Like, how long do you think that that's gonna take place? As a teacher myself, I just.
Yeah, it's a couple of years in order to get this
Okay.
done. It's gonna take some time, for sure.
Okay.
So,
I just also from like a parent standpoint, I just worry because kids get a lot of their energy out through being outside, so
Yeah.
I just.
say the winter is always the worst. with kids, so
I know,
that's,
but-
Yeah, and that's.
I just wonder if there's a way that in the construction that the play areas could be done first or like potentially quicker so they could have access to it. I just wonder if that's something that could be in consideration. And maybe that's something, I don't know, if you guys have thought about that as well, I don't know.
Well, Bob just asked, could we construct in the current area outside of pre-K, that courtyard? Could we enclose that somehow? So that that could become a small play area. We certainly then could construct a schedule where 1 or 2 classes at a time could go outside to get their energy out. Yeah.
Like a
but maybe-
rotation or something,
Yeah.
I just get worried, because I'm sure they could use the gym also as well, but.
Yeah.
No.
But the gym is currently
Oh,
used for
okay,
lunch and
okay.
everything else. So that's very good input and Great
I mean,
question.
just for 2
Yeah.
years of not being able to have access, that would just be,
it's.
it might
big
put some
undertaking.
strain on everybody.
There is, with this area here, there's some things in there that we need to salvage, that we need to take out, and moving forward. So that can be item 1, is to clean up that area, create, a fenced in area that can be utilized by the school at that point, for some type of activity, to get out.
I just think it's worth putting into consideration, so.
I agree. I think it's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we will definitely keep that noted as we move into this.
Thank you.
This overall constructability. Yes, yes. So the floor plan in general, and feel free, more questions about site, we can go back, it's definitely a continuing look at this. Here you can kind of see, this is the main entrance, so this is the corner of the building, towards the, I'll say the southeast side of the site here. So come into the main entrance, we will have a security vestibule. You will come in there, you cannot go to the rest of the school, you have to come through the office. So as a parent, you show up, you come into the office, you talk to them there. The nurse's suite is immediately adjacent to it, so if you're picking up a sick child, then you don't need to go anywhere. The child can come to you in the office. So that is the idea, is to contain our administrative area and our nurses area into this location. We'll have a lot of windows along these walls here at the exterior, so not only is the receptionist watching, but any of the other staff can watch the front entrance as well. But immediately beyond this, and we'll take a look at some of these images today. We're going to propose a grand entrance, a 2-story space with an interconnecting stair to the 2nd floor level there, immediately adjacent to the cafeteria. So the idea is that we kind of have this open feeling when you walk in, nice bright area, lots of natural light, and lots of fun within that space as well. Immediately adjacent to the lobby here, we have our cafeteria, as I mentioned, and kitchen, mechanical, electrical, which I'm going to have Jen touch on that here shortly, and kind of a receiving area for our cafeteria function. Then we have, as we move around the plan, okay, we've established that we have 4 classrooms per grade level, okay. We have these classrooms now associated with pods, if you want to call them that, so we're going to pod them together. We have kindergarten first and second here on the 1st floor level. Want to put kindergarten as close to the office as possible. And then we have our pre-K also adjacent to kindergarten here with, access to that exterior kindergarten play area as well. So then around this area, we have our courtyard in the middle. Okay, the courtyard is a space that can be utilized by the teachers for exterior teaching, STEM projects, any type of aspect there, just a flexible space overall. The design of this right now is still being worked over, but the idea is we want to keep it as maintenance free as possible with hard surfaces and things like that, so we don't have to go out there and cut grass and so forth and so on. Coming around the loop here, we have our community pantry here at the lower end corner, which would serve that parking area. So that could be separated from the school, but connected to the school still, so it still serves that function. And then we have some additional spaces here for, I'll say mental health liaison and behavioral services and learning support, things of that nature, all are kind of intermixed within the floor plan proper itself. Immediately here next to the courtyard, we have our library and our one of our STEM rooms and another STEM room over here. We do have an Act 34 process that we're going to go through, so we're looking at building capacities and uses all over the place for what this is going to be, to make sure that we're doing this appropriately. And then we have our gymnasium here. The gymnasium itself is set apart from the school, so it could be utilized after hours if that would be the case. You know, it's definitely going to have a full-size gym with bleacher seating, storage, and so forth and so on. No locker room facilities, but we do have a full gym able to be utilized there. Now, as I mentioned with the dismissal, the comment and the discussion was always to use the gym as the hub, if you will, that we would corral the students there at the end of the day, allow them to be inside, because right now they're standing outside in painted lines on the pavement. So we want to bring them in and allow for that dismissal to occur within the gymnasium proper. And we have 2 areas where we can come out for buses and come out for parent group there as well. So that is going to take some coordination and future planning and work with the administration of the building. But that is something we kind of discussed and walked through at this point. Okay.
Maybe I missed it. Is there a elevator?
Yes, there is an elevator. Yes. We have 2 stories. We have to have an elevator. Yes, absolutely. The elevator will.
Oh.
We have to have an elevator.
Yes, we have to have an elevator.
So, onto the second floor, just a brief walk through this. You'll come up this grand staircase in the 2-story lobby, which we'll see an image up here later, up to a landing up here, which is a little bit of an oversized space, but can serve as a breakout function. We'll have some technology there at the landing, some soft seating, some furniture, just to make that a good space for students to utilize, teachers to utilize, for some areas there for some additional collaboration. We do have some classrooms here off to the side that would serve multiple functions, but counselors and small group areas there as well. And then as we continue around 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade around the perimeter in the similar fashion to below. Okay, so we have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classrooms accordingly. And we do have our band and arts and that's just some other functions here in the middle. So those all kind of develop that loop around the building. We're trying to keep this as effective and efficient as possible. The plan itself, we do not want to, you know, go too elaborate with the space or the functions in general. We want to keep it with the same palette of materials that we've used across the district. So from a maintenance standpoint, things are pretty seamless as we move forward. A few notable things before we go into the next aspects of this. We will have toilet rooms in the classrooms for kindergarten and 1st grade. 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade will not have toilet rooms. They'll be a little bit bigger because they do not have that floor space even up by toilet rooms. So we have some additional floor space there. Okay. This building, because of the code and because of where we need and where we are in the world, we are going to have a tornado shelter. So that will be a 2-story tornado shelter. It's actually going to occur on this level of these 4 classrooms and immediately below it at these 4 classrooms. That is a code requirement. And there's a lot of individual pieces and parts that we're starting to engineer and take care of at this point. But it's something we've done for a few districts now. So it's new and it's something that is going to have to occur as part of this construction. Okay. Elevation wise, these are the 2-dimensional elevations. We're, you know, working through this. We're working through the overall aesthetics. This is kind of difficult to read. We'll take a look at the renderings. They're a little bit more easy to understand. But just one thing I would caution everyone with here is that this is a fluid component at this point. So, and actually, before we go into the renderings, Jim, do you want to give a quick breakdown of heating, plumbing, electric? I'm sorry to run over that.
Going pretty long anyway here. Well, since we finally have a clean slate on the building, we don't have to try to make do and with the existing conditions and where our hands get tied with some existing equipment. Our plan here, which we've talked with Neil and Ray and company, is trying to standardize as best we can some of the decisions the district has made so far. Standardizing on similar type boilers, central station air handling units and rooftop units, ducted air for better air quality, the same treatments we've been talking about and incorporating so far, so that we can maintain a much safer interior environment for all the folks that occupy the building. For some budget protections like we've done on high school and Wilson Middle, we would hope that budgets could afford a fully air-conditioned building. But sometimes that's not the case, so we will have some alternate bids where we might have to sacrifice and not have fully air conditioned, but only air conditioned spaces that might be used guaranteed for year round. So we'll structure the bid documents that way, and hopefully by the time we put this out to bid, some sanity, then come back to the bidding environment, keep our fingers crossed on that. LED lights, low flow fixtures, all the usual stuff. Like John mentioned, we have that tornado shelter that we have to accommodate on mechanical, backup power, water. To me, it all seems a little bit ridiculous, but I don't write the codes. So we've come up with John and Bob and company with some fairly reasonable strategy that don't add tremendous amounts of money to make those sorts of things happen. So trying to make sure this building is as easy to take care of as possible for Ray and his crew. And again, with the decisions we made, you'll be hot water heat, there won't be any steam here. So it'll be, as my guess is this will be the most efficient building we have in the district by the time we walk away from this a couple of years from now. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So just in general, the design right now is very fluid. We're still working through the geometries, through the colors, through the selection of where we're at. So take what you see with a grain of salt, but it's something that's very exciting to go through and get your opinion on this in general. So this is the exterior. You can actually kind of see, this would be our front entrance component over here. This is actually the parent loop out onto 7th, and then the bus loop here. So this will be the gym in the middle, and then our community pantry here over underneath this metal panel, multicolored geometry over on the left there. So the idea is, picking up some of the color with the school colors, some of the geometries of the slanted roofs and in the neighborhood and so forth and so on, to try and make this a very bright and vibrant building as we move forward.
What's the exterior material? Is it?
So it would be a brick and some cast stone accents, as well as metal panel, which is what is going on the front facade of Erie High at this point. So we're trying to keep that palette across the district so we can understand. The wall construction in general is going to be, metal studs, steel frame structure, things of that nature. So just trying to be as efficient and effective as possible. But color wise and everything, I mean, it's still very much up in the air. We're still looking to do that. Still studying that out and trying to understand what that is going to be. But as much glass as we can manage to get a lot of natural light into the building, as much open and airiness as we can provide as well.
Okay, my question about the glass, that's the office, correct?
This is the office here down on the solar level.
Yeah, so you have secretaries sitting out there with the glass, correct? I'm getting at safety protocol. Shouldn't there be bulletproof glass?
So it will be an insulated laminated glass, which is what we've been providing here at the district. So it's not bulletproof, but it is a laminated glass which holds its shape during, I'll say, under fire, so to speak.
And John, your rendering here is just
Yeah.
rendering.
It's- yeah.
You might not have
Oh, okay,
windows
well,
the whole
then
way
forget it.
down to the floor. They may be up.
Right. And so windows in general, it's just a render, just a very early discussion of what this is. So the idea is to have as much view into the parking lot as possible from.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more of safety,
Which have a good point. Maybe
because
like last, it could be
you never know.
higher or something to protect.
Yes. Yeah, so to keep it up from the ground at that
Yeah,
point. So
safety-
yes, it can
safety-
go,
for Safety.
yeah, it does not have to be like that. It's something that we can take into account into the design overall, for sure. Now, the front entrance, we have glass here at the front entrance, which would be the vestibule, so you can see out into the parking lot from the interior parts as well. So that will be some, I'll say, floor to ceiling glass at that point. But the actual openings into offices and so forth and so on, we can seclude that to make sure that it is not on the floor at that point. So just to kind of look further into that front entrance, this would be the that office and control point at the gymnasium here, and this other door into the gymnasium. As you kind of see, we're working our way around down Bacon. This is the view down Bacon. So we've kind of turned the corner with this additional geometry of the classroom wing. So just a playful material of some metal panels, some brick, maybe some different colors of brick. And just kind of pulling that all together as we move around the building. So just a very preliminary view of what this is. It's definitely in design, definitely in consideration for what we're doing further. But we will take it into account, the product not being down to the floor of glass and, consider that as we move forward. So moving into the interior, this would be kind of the view that we envision for the lobby itself. So this is when you walk into the building, that grand open space, 2 stories. So you have that connecting stair adjacent to the cafeteria. Again, carrying that color palette through in that same pattern through with some acoustical panels and just some warm tones of some material there with some paint as well as drywall, maybe some wood trim and so forth and so on. And then just picking up on those school colors with the bulkheads around the cafeteria, around the office, providing views from the office through glazing here, through glass from the office into the cafeteria and vice versa. And then you can kind of see that interconnecting stair up to that landing. There is a little hinting of some furniture up there. You can't really see it in this rendering, but that would be the idea in that location. The cafeteria in general, ultimately, we have a number of students we have to hit, but we're looking at furniture, looking at layout, things of that nature. But again, carrying through that pattern. No. Wrong. See, now I'm going too far ahead. Sorry about that. So picking up some warm materials from the ceiling and just some durable materials like ceramic tile and painted drywall and things like that, just so that they can last the ages, so to speak, within the building. This would be the gymnasium. Very simple approach with floor, retractable bleachers, new equipment all the way around, and acoustical treatments so that we can try and control this, the noise in there a little bit at that point. Higher windows with just some natural light pouring in at that point. And then, so Edison, the existing Edison has at the ends 2 archways that are very, very prominent at the entrances. Had some discussion and thought with Neil about the possibility of relocating those, reusing those and so forth and so on. This is kind of a very, very preliminary idea, but we really like it. I think it's very interesting. So we pulled the gymnasium away from the interior corridor a little bit and created another 2-story space. And I'll show you real quick. I'm going to go back to the plan. Where this occurs is actually right here. Okay. So we pulled the gymnasium out a little bit, and then we would have a balcony, so to speak, at the 2nd floor. And then at the 1st floor, it would be a railing, a bulkhead overhead. Okay, so the idea is to pull that away to allow for the installation of these archways to be the new entrances into the gymnasium proper. Okay, so this is something that I think would be very interesting. I think we could make a tie to what Edison was. It is something that we are very, very early on in investigating, so we'd have to get some input from Mason to understand how we're going to do that, how we're going to relocate some of that very large stonework, because it is pretty immaculate, pretty grand. But I think the idea is there for us to be able to be walking in this 1st floor corridor with this overhead balcony. That's what this actual line represents, is the balcony overhead. And this would be the 2nd floor corridor above you, and be able to walk past these old archways as the entrances into the gym. You can kind of see here in the next renderings, this would be on the ground floor proper. To understand that when you are walking in, you're walking through those old stone archways that are now at the existing ends of the building there. And then also going past that here on the 1st floor as it ties into the regular circulation pattern there. So
Wouldn't those have more impact if you have symmetry on the busy side, on the Lake Road? If you put those entry, I know they clash with the modern, but
yeah,
they potentially could be put on that north elevation and make it look less like the back of a building, which is what it is. Not that they would work, but just
Although, I guess moving them interior would allow them to be preserved longer with not
Okay.
being exposed to the exterior elements and things. That would be the reason for going inside versus out. They could definitely be used on the exterior, on the outside, but the idea would be to preserve them longer. Going inside would be the better way to do that. So our classrooms, just real quick, we talked about this with the teachers. This will be your typical classroom setup, set up for 25 students per classroom. With a capacity overall of about 600 and enrollment around 420-ish at this point, which we can talk about that here a little bit further. But the furniture is being reviewed right now. It's being, we'll be making some selections for that. We'll have cubbies in the classroom for the kids, as much storage as possible. And just some bright colors, as much natural light as we can get in there. And then our standard teaching wall that we've coordinated with the administration. Some whiteboards, smartboard, projectors as needed, and tack boards, as much tackable surfaces as we can get into these classrooms. Just from there, just to touch on the timeline and the project budgets at this point. So timeline, like I said, we are approaching the, in February here, we're looking at city zoning and things of that nature. We're looking to complete our design developments so that we can move into the next aspects of the project, which is looking into more engineering of the NPDS, CNS reviews, as well as stormwater management with the city. This does have to be an Act 34 building, so we are going to be advertising that with you here shortly and anchoring our costs down. We've had some projects come in recently, and those are very much in the microscope, so we can try to understand what's happening from a cost standpoint at this juncture. But we're looking to push as quickly as possible to complete, complete bid documents in August, bid in September, and begin construction immediately. And then with a look to go to August of 25 to complete building construction and then occupy the school, but then following through with that fall and into the winter for the rest of the work.
I have a question. So we have to go through the Act 34 stuff, but we don't get any reimbursement from the state for this, right? Like
Correct.
ClanCon is gone, we don't, but we still have to go through all the steps.
That's correct.
Okay.
And so currently with the increases that we've seen, inflation with prices coming in where they're at right now in this crazy environment that we are in, we have seen some increases. General heating, plumbing, electric, food service, and construction total right now, about $30,576,000. Soft costs on top of that, about $6.5 million. Total right now, we stand at $37 million, which with the Act 34, we are still okay. We're not over the Act 34 limit, but that's something that we have a close eye on at all times.
What's the limit?
The limit's going to be established by PDE. You come up with a capacity limit based off of how many students you have in the building and what functions you have in the building. And you get so many points for an actual expenditure amount so that you don't overspend on a project. So you can't just spend $40 million on a project if it's not justified by what that school is, by how many students you have and so forth and so on. Yes, sir.
So earlier you said current enrollment is around 420. So
Yes.
the building capacity would be about 700,
About 600.
600?
Yes. So.
Mr. Sharif, too, what we talked to the board about before is the Deal Elementary is at its at capacity or above. So as part of this, we would look to shift the borders a little bit and have more kids go to the new Edison one. So
If the construction starts in October, what would they have up before the winter comes in? Would they have just dug the foundation or what would have happened?
They would be doing foundation work. They'd probably get a steel.
Steel would be the next
ground.
spring.
I'm sorry?
The steel would be the next spring. you
Yeah.
think?
And there would be a lot of temporary site things and stuff that would have to take place as well in order to get that underway in general.
But we, at some point, we should have a big sign on East Lake Road. That neighborhood has suffered with this old school for so long. It's gonna help the real estate values in that area. There's a lot of traffic on East Lake Road. We should have a huge sign there to say,
For rendering.
right.
We have to finish the room
I know.
first.
Right.
Health is on its way.
So we
Any
did
questions?
questions?
Tonight, we're asking, move ahead and start the bid documents based on this design.
Before we do that, we did ask the Edison team to come and we did that on purpose, right? And it's been useful that you guys are here. I just want to give an opportunity when it got checked with you guys. This is good, we're good. You guys have been involved. You're happy with what this looks like. Yeah?
Incredible. And every single detail that we think of and we propose to them is always accommodated every time.
But no concerns. Okay, sorry, just wanted to get that.
On Zoom.
Okay.
He's on Zoom. He's on Zoom.
Just thanks really, Daria. I mean, from our perspective, when Neil, when we started this conversation, we were joking like, we hope we're included. And as Becca said, every time we come together as a team and share our thoughts, not just ours, but on behalf of the staff, with John and Todd and Neil, every time we see the next phase that includes, or the why it can't be this or that, so we've just appreciated that along the way very much.
Thank you.
So thank you to them too, because their input has been fantastic, so.
So you need us to,
We need a head on, to move ahead and start preparing the bid documents.
any concerns from anyone to do that?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Well, thank you all for your input too. We'll definitely take that into account as we move forward with the design. And if there's anything that comes up, please feel free to let us know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you. Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. So we'll move on then, just to keep ourselves on some sort of time limit here. Item 5, we have the safety update from Mr. Plato and Mr. Brockman.
Yes, so, if you're aware, there's been a number of incidents in the country of gun incidents involving young children, and we're starting to see some of the gun violence in the community trickle down into the elementary level as well. And with all of that, we wanted to come to you tonight and ask you to consider putting metal detectors in the elementary schools. We think we have a plan that we could do that and have it be less intrusive than it is at the middle and high school with the bag searches. And I'm going to turn it over to Neil to discuss it.
So the model metal detector that we've installed at the high schools and all the secondary schools were designed to allow for, essentially, it's about 2,000 people to enter each hour. You can dial up the sensitivity and dial back the sensitivity. The standard level of sensitivity for those metal detectors is essentially to capture weapons of mass casualties or mass destruction. So it will catch any kind of firearm that is going to go through. As you dial it up, then it starts to catch smaller things, so smaller knives. When you start catching those things, then all of a sudden a phone will set off that metal detector, because all phones have a metal spline in them, and the metal detector notices that and it says, oh, it's got a knife. This person has a knife, but it's really just the cell phone. Same thing goes with the Chromebooks. So we can alter the settings so that it won't necessarily pick up phones or Chromebooks and will only pick up guns or bigger items.
That will greatly reduce the number of bag searches that would have to occur at the elementary level. Again, we think it would be less intrusive as well. I mean, what would the total cost be?
So we're just estimating 40 metal detectors. That would be 4 for every elementary, 4 for each of the elementary schools. I don't know if all of them need 4, but for the basis of this conversation, I'm going off of that. It would be $637,000.
About staffing them.
Because as we were saying, when you dial that sensitivity or set that sensitivity at that level, you don't have to search bags. So it would just be a matter of someone watching the students walk through one by one. And if they set them off, that's when you either send them back, you take their bag, you search their bag, or you do a secondary one with a hand wand.
20 something.
I believe that we can.
They have the elementaries have the wands now,
No,
so that's included in the 600.
in the cost, no, but the hand wands are something that we can get there roughly $100 a piece.
I'm sorry, did Sumner I'm not Sumner, sorry, John, did he ask who? I couldn't hear what he said.
He said
He would
staff,
staff
who
them.
would staff them?
He was
Okay.
wondering whether we'd have to hire additional staff that would be. Yeah. Mr. Sharif, you had a comment?
Is it like, is there any other schools that are doing it right now, like at elementary level? That you guys know of?
That was gonna be my question as well.
Yeah, because
And do you have an estimate on what it would run for these doors that lock from the inside? I mean, that's the only protection these teachers have if somebody gets in the building is be able to lock their door.
I did not calculate that out. I can start working towards getting it calculated out. It's a matter of, again,
I
of
mean, that's the
counting.
mass casualty risk.
Yeah, it's counting every single door, and then sometimes it's not necessarily as easy as just counting all the doors and replacing it, because sometimes the doors are not adequate. I mean, we happened to be at Piper Burley for a safety meeting, and the room that we were in had double doors that have exterior rods. And so essentially to make those lockable from the inside, we would actually have to take out those doors, put in a new set of doors that were first ADA accessible, because I think they're both 2.5 feet. That's got to be 3 feet and 2 feet. And then that way you can lock the 2-foot sash, and then the other one can actually close. So it's kind of a guessing game.
And Mr. Nichols, just to assure you, all of our classroom doors do lock. We made that a priority. And the protocol that has been recommended to us by the state police until we can get those interior locks is to keep the doors locked at all times. We've been making the rounds with the safety committees and working with the teachers on that. Some of the buildings have asked for magnetic strips to put inside the door so that when you shut them, it doesn't automatically lock. And if something does happen, they can just pull the strip off and shut it. So at this point, we feel that that's a reasonable approach until we can get through all the renovations, because we're concerned about retrofitting all those doors with new locks and then coming through a year or two later and replacing the doors and getting locks again.
And you think you can get the majority of the doors to be lockable from
They
the
are.
inside or
They
or
are right now,
Okay.
yes.
And the teachers have been advised to keep them locked.
Yes.
Good, okay.
I have a few questions. So I'm just assuming that some of this is probably from what happened in Virginia.
Yes.
And so I think, have you guys talked to the teachers already, like in principals and
Yeah,
in the elementary school?
we spoke to the EDA. We have weekly meetings with them and they are supportive of this.
They're supportive. And we don't know, or we don't know if like somewhere in Pittsburgh is already doing this with their elementary schools or. And I'm not opposed to it, because the one thing I'd hate to see is us wait, right? Because that's similar to what happened, 2 years ago when we didn't do just as a board, everyone was kind of up in arms about what to do. Then the shooting happened and it was like a unanimous, right? I hate to see us to get to that point. But I also hate to be the ones to introduce kids to something like this so soon. And so this is how I like go all over the place, but I don't want us to get to where it takes an incident. Like, I don't want us to be reactive either, But I would definitely like to know like what Pittsburgh is doing, right? What Cleveland is doing. But I also, and I'm not like the deciding factor here, I'm just saying, I think that we should keep pursuing what does that look like, rolling something like that out in a very small community, right, with small children, but the reality of what we just saw happen on the news, right? Like, so I think there's so many things to unravel in this. That's a hard, ugly decision to be made.
It isn't that ugly. I think we postponed it before because of these concerns it would be negative. I go to the football games, I go to the basketball games. It's a comfort to go there and know that everybody has come in there has gone through a metal detector now, whether it's a basketball game or a football game. There's still gonna be fights and such, but it's much less likely to be a very dangerous situation. I think they've been positive for the schools and, that's, I think we should go ahead with it.
There were other comments over here, Rose?
I think, Lori, I take your concerns, but I think now in society, I think kids of all ages have gone through metal detectors and I think it's just common to them now that if they didn't, they'd be like, wow, where is it? So, I mean, I don't have a problem. I think they're being introduced to it in a lot of ways now in society.
Mr. Shreve?
Yeah, my biggest concern is like nobody's monitoring, like I'm not understanding it yet, like kids are walking in, but it's self-monitoring, who's gonna know when these things are going off? Who's
No,
addressed?
we would have people monitoring them, but they would only have to do a search if it beeps. If it goes off, and that's not gonna happen with small items like cell phones and thermoses and things of that nature. So it would only beep if there was something bigger in there, like there was a Chromebook or an actual weapon in the bag. And then so it would just be a small percentage of students that may have to be searched separately.
This is like a little bit off topic, like I know when people come to the board meetings, for example, Erie, East Middle School has detectors. People are not being detected to come in, people just walking in. And this is like another safety concern. So how come it's not being utilized for that? I went to an event that was held at East Middle School and it was an ABC conference on a Saturday. People were just coming in. That's another safety that can happen on the school district's grounds. So how come it's not being utilized every time? When it comes to safety issue.
So I will say that it should be happening at all times. I will
But it's not.
find, I understand. I will find out why it's not taking place during the board meetings. That's number one. I do know that the ABC conference was a last minute add-on. And so by the time the permit came through and everything else, there just was no officer available to run the machines. That one I know for an actual fact.
Because I was involved, like we did an educational and we told them why not reach out to the Erie City. They have well, I forgot the program with the kids, to bring law enforcement. To me, it just doesn't seem like, I mean, for example, I went to a high school game, Erie High and prep. There was no metal detector. We just walked in. My wife and I just walked in.
But that was a prep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there a difference?
Yeah.
So they don't do that.
Right.
Any of our events that have taken place so far, every sporting event that I could think of has had the metal detectors and officers when we host them.
I definitely support safety because I got kids that go to these schools, so I definitely support that, but we just have to think of, we can look at a couple of years from now, the trauma that it caused on younger kids because they're walking into metal detectors or whatnot. But I definitely support safety over anything.
So I just want to say, Mr. Brenneman's on Zoom and he wasn't feeling well to talk tonight. He just texted me and said, just a consideration certainly too, that if you have a huge line of kids standing because there's a slowdown because of the metal detectors, that also can certainly be a security concern. So I hear you saying we probably shouldn't have that because, the sensitivity is turned down, but I just want to share his comment with the board as well. Ms. Pickens, you had something?
Forgot.
I'm sorry.
It's
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll last for a few.
Blame Mr. Brenneman. You can't defend himself.
What was it? It was something. Oh, do you guys plan to do meetings at each of the schools, invite the families just to kind of, introduce them, let them know these are going to be the changes. I think it's important that if we do it, we show all the things of what's happening, right? This is not just an assumption, X, Y, Z. This is looking at what happened in Virginia and us getting ahead of what also happened here at our own high school, X, Y, and Z.
And that's what we did with the middle and high schools. Eric actually drafted a letter that went home and we gave them some lead time. I think it was a couple of weeks before we started using them so that people will get used to the idea and be able to ask them questions.
Are we restricting entry in the grade schools to a single door at this point?
It's different per each individual building. The buildings basically set up their own entry points. As John mentioned, at least when we look at Edison, all the kids line up outside. So 95% of, or probably more than that, all the students will walk in through basically 2 doors. The only group that doesn't walk in there is the pre-K, who walk in through a different side. Jefferson, I believe, has 3 different entrances that they use for their students. It really varies based on the building, which is why when building this budget assumption, I said 4 per building, so that we wouldn't necessarily have to change the way that students are entering the building.
In most entries, you have 2 of them. Or main entries, you have two detectors.
So at Erie High, they use 3 entry points, and they have 1 metal detector on the 34th Street side, 1 at the what would be 32nd Street side, and then 2 at the main entrance. Strong Vincent, everybody enters through the front, and so I believe they have 3 there. Thank you. East, everybody enters through the front, so they have 3 there. DePaulo enters essentially through the front as well, so all of their metal detectors. Again, it varies from building to building.
Mr. Shree?
Yeah, just, you know, with the incident that's triggering this, like, I hope we're not avoiding teachers' concern, because it seemed like that incident could have been avoided, because that teacher mentioned stuff and administrators in that school did not take the right action. And, you know, they knew this kid came in, nobody addressed it. So it just didn't happen just like that. There was a lot of mishap. I'm sure the people lost their job over that. So I hope we're not, at the school level, we're not, overlooking when a teacher is having us concerned about certain individuals. and whatnot.
No, we take safety very seriously, and especially after the incident last year, encourage people to report. Well, the other thing, I know we were talking about the incident in Virginia, but also keep in mind what's going on in our community. Recall the last call-in list that was put together in the fall. We had 5 of our elementary students on that list. So, there is concern that students at that grade level are involved in some of these incidents across the city.
We've had, I think, good discussion here. But I've heard discussion all over the place a bit. So I kind of want us to give, Mr. Polito, Mr. Brockman, some direction. So are we in general agreement that, yes, we want to proceed with this? Do we want to hold off and get some more information, as Ms. Pickens has indicated? Where are we? So we can give some direction. You're laughing at me. Okay.
No, I'm really not.
I'm trying to hurt the cats. Sorry. So where do we feel like we are?
I favor going ahead with it.
Okay.
So do I.
Okay. Lauren, I heard you. Yes.
I do too.
John. Okay.
I can go to majority.
Oh, you're easy to work with these days.
Look at that.
Appreciate it.
Madam President,
Yes.
Uh,
Brockman.
I will say that in reference to Ms. Pickens' concern or question about who around here
Yes.
has this at the elementary level, I just sent an email to the individual that we've been purchasing the metal detectors from, so that he can give us some information to see if there is anybody at the elementary level. And I basically said, go about a 200-mile radius, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Buffalo. If there's somebody at the elementary level that they know of that is using metal detectors, just so that I can get the data for you guys.
Nothing wrong with being the first either. Safety first.
So I think generally then we're in consensus that we're okay with this. We would like some more data. And of course, we know that Erica will do a great job of informing our families and laying the groundwork for that. But with that, I think, are we good? Good for you? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, kind of staying on this same topic then, item 6, safe firearm storage information, Mr. Polito and Mr. McCullough.
Yes, as the board's aware, last year, the board adopted a resolution to encourage safe firearm storage. And in the resolution, we were directed to include information in the annual family information guide, which we have. In addition, we were directed to continue to work with local law enforcement agencies, health agencies, student and family groups, community groups, and nonprofits to collaborate and increase efforts to inform district families about secure storage of firearms in their homes. As you probably saw, we did recently have 2 of our students that were injured in gun accidents at home. And with that and the resolution, we would we would like to form a committee to study this, starting with our teachers to take a look at how we can better educate our students as well as our families across the community. So Teresa, if you want to explain the process you're looking at.
Sure. So what we would like to do is we'll put a post. We spoke with the EEA, they're in support of it. We will put a posting up to get representation from each of the levels. We are looking to tap the expertise of our health educators to talk through what would be the best way to deliver this information to students, to families. Would it be through perhaps some health lessons within our curriculum? Would it be assemblies? Could it be parent nights? So what we're looking to do in the next couple of weeks is get that group together and start to brainstorm. Erica is also reaching out to local law enforcement and local health agencies so we can get input from them as well. And, you know, hopefully have something to bring to share with the board probably within the next month or two.
Questions on that, comments? I think it's, you know, necessary, sad but necessary, and fully support that. Okay. All right, moving on to item 7, review of the draft meeting agenda for next week. Did anyone have any comments, questions about next week's agenda? Hearing none, okay. Then we have item 8, the Ivard painting collection. Mr. Polito, do you want to give us that update?
Yes, and I sent out the update, just as a summary. Eugene Ivard was actually a teacher here in the district from 1921 to 1930. He was a famous artist, nationally known. One way or another along the line, we became the owners of a collection of about 183 paintings, prints, magazine covers, and other items that have been more or less on loan to the Historical Society. I think since we received them, John, at least 20 years anyway.
Oh, 71, I think it was in the book of 1971.
71. Okay. The Historical Society wants to refurbish a number of them and start to put them on display. The cost to do the ones that need it most immediately is between $70,000 and $82,000. They don't want to raise money for that unless the collection is theirs. So they had asked if we would donate it to them. In my opinion, I think, you know, this is out of our wheelhouse of expertise. We don't have the capacity to restore or store or make them available for the public to view. So I would recommend that we consider making this transfer. In exchange for that, they're going to recognize our contribution. They'll also provide free admission to our students. And in addition, we spoke with them and they agreed to collaborate with our foundation to use the collection for fundraising purposes and allow us to utilize the prints to raise money for FEPS as well.
But doesn't it have a value of $500,000 or better?
We're not sure what the value is because we own the vast majority of his work. I did a little quick research when this came up, and I saw one piece that went for about $4,000. There really isn't much of an
I
example.
mean, I've seen it down at they got 95% of it in stores. It seems to me that, I mean, they've taken care of it for 50 years, but maybe it should be auctioned off and split the money with a museum or something. We can't really use it in the schools because it's all white kids. You know, it was done in 1920. It's not a diverse population, so we can't really use the portraits, but if they've taken care of it for a long time, but
I think why you see 95% of it is in storage is because I believe a lot of it needs work. And I think that's the concern. They can't display it because it needs to be refurbished, but they're not going to raise the money to refurbish without owning
there's
it.
180. There's no way they've got the room to display more than a handful of them at any one time.
I think their intent would be to do like a major exhibit. And that I went with Brian to the meeting and that was what they expressed to us. And as far as selling, I just feel like there would be a bit of an uproar from the community. I mean, remind me of the chain. Does anybody remember? He taught Plavkin, right?
Yes.
He taught Plavkin, somebody taught him. So there's like quite a chain of, and another point they mentioned us, all of these art teachers are Erie School District products. And so they agree to really promote that. Like, these are all products of the Erie City Schools. They've done this great work. But to sell them, I feel like the community might be upset with us. When that's been tried, I know down at the library years ago, there
But
was
if we
quite
give
an
them
uproar.
to them and then they sell them, then how do we look? You know,
Do we have an agreement that they would not sell them?
Certainly work that into the agreement.
That's a great point.
I just think,
Yeah.
because I think they,
Well, there could be like a reversion clause that we give it to them, it's theirs, but they can't sell them. And if they want to, they can't, they would
yeah,
have to
something
revert
like
to
that. That
us.
just covered us
I like
on
that.
And if they do, we get percentage of it.
Well,
because it's not,
100% of it?
I would,
Well, they're gonna allow free admission, right?
Yeah.
So all
well, they've taken care of it for what, 50 years or
Ron's
longer?
saying since the 70s, so.
71, the bulk
Yeah.
of them were given to us.
What's
They might be
the
trying to
alternative?
sell 'em.
Keep it in storage?
Well,
Or
or,
we could say, we'll give it to them, and if they ever sell any of them, we would split the proceeds with them, something like that. They don't need 183. It's not the move.
Jay, you have something to add there?
I think we would just have to talk to them. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna wanna put their money into it, if they sell it and then split it with the school district. I think maybe what the school district wants to do is keep that asset in the community.
Right.
And therefore say, we'll give it to you if you, so long as you use it for historical purposes. If you ever stop using it for historical purposes, then it reverts back to the school district.
I'm all for that, and that's what I assume we were doing with that question. Very question. Feel a little bit lazy, but not a nail that down. I thought I heard that already. In this. Expressed it this morning. It's exactly what I think we should do.
The first line of this is that they agree to continue to own, protect, and make available to the public the hybrids in a manner consistent with contemporary museum practices. So we could probably add additional language to that. Protect ourselves.
Would that make everyone comfortable if we took that tack? Okay. Great. That was a good, great point. Thank you. Okay. Item 9 is any other matter? Does anyone have anything to raise?
Madam President?
Mr. Brockman?
We talked about this at the last meeting, the change order for the lights for Collegiate Academy and the Promenade. I just received the change order today, so I did not get it on the agenda prior to the deadline. If the board is so inclined, I will have Ms. Jones add it to the agenda so that it is approved next week.
Anyone opposed to that? No. Great, thank you. I just had one quick matter. Now, I should have done this at the beginning of the meeting, but certainly welcome, Mr. Sharif. We welcomed you last time, so I felt that was okay. But now that we have a fully seated board, I would like maybe to have a conversation together about our meeting structure. There are also some committees that have been suggested. Ms. Pickens reminded me that Dr. Tate had wanted to put together a parent involvement committee. So I think there's some conversations as a board we'd like to have. I also noticed tonight when we hold our committee of the whole meetings here and the public comes, it's incredibly uncomfortable. So I'd like to talk to the board about maybe moving our committee of the wholes, maybe going out to the schools and hosting them, kind of going on the road a little bit. But I don't want to take our time here. So I wondered if the board would be willing to do a retreat like we've done in the past, maybe like a Saturday morning for a few hours where we just talk about a couple of these issues, how we kind of do our work together. So is anyone opposed to that? If not, I'll ask Ms. Jones to maybe work on some dates and send them around and see what we can put together. Would that be okay? No one's opposed? Thank you. Okay, so Angela, I'll work with you on that. We'll get an email out to the board. Sounds good. Thank you. Any other matter? Okay, then we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. And then we will be going into executive session for legal and personnel matters, correct, Mr. Polito? So we will stay in this room because Mr. Brenneman is on Zoom. So we'll reconvene and let's give ourselves 5 minutes for the bathroom. Thank you.